Welcome to a special installment of the Soy Checkoff Check-In. I'm AgriTalk host Chip Flory. This Checkoff Check-In features two regulars that we've been talking with this year, but this is the first time that we've had them on at the same time. Let's bring in our first guest. Steve Reinhard is the chair of the United Soybean Board. He's a farmer in Ohio. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, Chip. Thanks. It's great to be back here with you.
Fantastic. And Lucas Lentsch, the CEO of USB. Lucas, it is great to talk with you again.
Chip, glad to be with you.
All right. Fantastic. Steve, I want to start with a crop update. You've experienced some really dry conditions over there in Ohio. How has the crop reacted to it?
Well, the southeast part of the state is definitely the driest and the worst. And then as we go up through the northwest, it continually gets a little bit greener. But if you're south of Columbus, I think you've probably had one of the driest summers you've had in several years, especially. And I think that the yields there have taken a hit. Our yields in north central Ohio are going to be a little bit off, but not by much. Just the great new hybrids and varieties that we have. And, a lot of that goes back to the Checkoff and how we've invested in new traits to make them more drought tolerant have definitely paid off.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That investment is being realized every day in some of these areas across the Corn Belt, not just Ohio, but across the Corn Belt where some dry conditions are being experienced, but those bean yields are holding in there pretty good. Lucas, I want to jump over to you. So here we are. I want to look back at the last fiscal year, looking back at 2024. What do you think the United Soybean Board has achieved this year? What's the biggest achievement? And most importantly, what's behind that success? What has driven it?
As I think back over the last year, part of that has been even my onboarding from last December, joining as CEO. The farmers of the 77 board members that represent America's soybean farmers on the Checkoff have been very focused on being farmer-led, farmer-funded, and farmer-directed. And some of what, you don't have to look at any closer than the markets that we've been under, a tightening market on soybeans. What makes you take a step back and say, hey, what's the work that we're doing to make sure that we're spending every dollar that comes across the Checkoff register, if you will, on the kind of investments, the kind of processes that yield long-term results. And what's been really important about this year is that the farmers led a decision on how we even do process in our organization. We're bringing a lot of historical relationships that have been contracted or outsourced to being insourced. And so, frankly, putting every relationship that the farmers are investing in within one handshake of the boardroom has been a priority. And so we've shifted some of our business model, Chip. And that's maybe a little bit in the weeds for the listeners, but I got to tell you, I think it's a very responsible decision and direction by the board, and ultimately is going to continue to give us a line of sight into the work that we're doing and have real-time conversations so that project work or the investments that we're making that are short-term are being wrestled with in the boardroom, but also long-term. And frankly, when we say long-term, it can be in terms of a decade or two on research work. And so keeping all of that in motion and transparent to the farmers, I think, is a fundamental underpinning of our success this year. We can get into into examples of what some of that might look like, and I'm sure Steve will talk to that as well. But I'm very proud of that work, and it's been hard to do, but it's been worth doing.
Yeah, awesome, Lucas. Those are some of the details that I know soybean growers are wanting to know about the investment that they're making there at USB. So, Steve, I'm going to ask you to look back at 2024 as well. What are some of the achievements, and maybe more importantly, some of the obstacles that you and other soybean farmers have had to manage?
Sure, Chip. I think Lucas kind of hit it there quickly that, one of the things as we continue down 2024, as we see our commodity price being lower than what we have had and been used to in the last couple of years. Definitely one of the other issues, though, is usually when you have lower commodity prices, you have lower input costs. And that's kind of been a double whammy that the input costs have not come down with the soybean prices. So that's been a huge obstacle that we on the farm have had to deal with in our own businesses. But then also it comes back and translates to the United Soybean Board and how we operate and can maneuver and invest in projects going forward. And that's one of the things that Lucas has kind of helped us with, that guidance and how we've been able to set up the future of the United Soybean Board and bringing some of those relationships closer to the board and to the farmer, and saving, in some cases, millions of dollars at the same time.
So that is United Soybean Board Chair Steve Reinhard from Ohio and Lucas Lentsch, CEO of USB. That wraps up this soybean checkoff check-in. I'm Chip Flory. Now, let's get back to AgriTalk.